So in Unity, almost any component can have physics, like gravity or force put upon it, collisions, all those sort of things. But because it would be very resource intensive for Unity to be able to calculate every single thing that's in a big scene and assume that it all has physics, it's a component that you have to add to it, right? And in Unity, that is called adding a rigid body. Basically, you have to tell Unity that this thing that is in my scene is a rigid, solid object that should have physics, mass, all that sort of stuff applied to it. So how we do that is we'll click on, at the moment, our player cube, and I'm going to add component. I'm going to type in rigid body, and rigid body, the normal one, not rigid body 2D. So I'm going to click on that. As you can see, now I have the ability to give it a mass. I can give it drag, angular drag. Is it using gravity? So now when I click on my play button, my player should drop down to the ground out of frame of my camera. Awesome. So that's pretty simple, right? We wanted to make it more massive. It would be able to crash into things much, much harder. If we stopped using gravity, it would just float in the middle of the air. But it would still be able to have collisions and other pieces of material smashing into it. So for the moment, we're going to keep using gravity on, and that's how we give our object a sense that is a physical object in the world. When we're adding motion to an object within Unity, there are a couple different ways that we can go about that. One, we can update its location and say, right now its location is at 0, so next frame we want it to be at location 1. And then the next location, have it add one more spot forward, so 2. And then keep doing that as it goes across our game. And that is a great way of doing this, but it makes things feel a little clunky in my opinion. The other way that we can add motion to an object is by applying a force to it. So we just gave our player a physical body, a rigid body, right? So now he has the ability to have a force acted upon him. One way of doing that is to add an instantaneous force to our object, kind of like a little push, to push him a bit forward. So it starts off, first frame, nudge a bit, second frame, nudge a bit, third frame, nudge a bit. So this way, not only will he be moving forward, but he'll gradually speed up and kind of more like a real car might go, right? A car doesn't go from 0 to 100 instantaneously. It takes a little while for it to get up there, right? So what we're going to do now is figure out how to code in a script that will add a forward force to our player to get him moving forward within our game field. So now that we have a physics engine attached to our player, and because we know how we want to add motion, now we have to add a script to our player. How that works is, if we're down here in our assets window, going to right click, create C# script. So this is going to create a script that is programmed in C#. So what we want to do is give this kind of a rememberable name. So maybe in this case, player controller. So now that we have a script for our player, it has to actually live in our player, because our script right now is just a blank asset that hasn't been added to our scene at all. So in order to make this script actually interact within our game, we have to attach it to something inside of our game, inside this window here. So since this is a script to manage the player, it makes sense to put it within the player. So I'll go to player cube, add component, and type in player controller, and there's my C# script. So now that our script exists and it lives within our player, let's go in, edit it in Visual Studio so that we can actually make some code to have our player do something. So all I'm going to do is double click on the player controller C# script, and then it's going to open up in Visual Studio. Ta-da! All right, inside here, it's already populated with some stuff. We're going to explain a bit more what this is in the next lesson.